Hello, sports card hobby friends. Another day, another sports card video. I was just thinking, with everybody so worked up about Panini and Fanatics and everything going on there, why not do a grading video? Haven't done one of these in a while. PSA grading, SGC grading. We're going to talk a little bit about two different things. So we're going to talk about SGC 10s versus PSA 10s, and then also just the unpredictability of PSA grading these days. And I'm going to talk through an example that I had fairly recently. Before I get started, big shout out to today's video sponsor, Whatnot, a great place to buy PSA, SGC, BGS, CSG graded cards. It's on Whatnot from the comfort of your couch. You're thinking about heading out to the card show, but you could probably just find these suckers right there on Whatnot. Definitely check out the Whatnot app today. Also, SGC is a sponsor of the channel as well. They are my favorite grading company. They did not ask me to make this video. This is a type of video that I've really been making for years. I like to make this kind of a quarterly thing where we go back and we talk about PSA versus SGC, and then also throwing in BGS and CSG as well. To be clear, everyone should grade with whoever they want to grade, if they even want to grade cards in the first place. I just like certain topics in the hobby, stuff that doesn't make sense to me. I like throwing it out there into the universe, and of course everyone chimes in, and that's how the world turns. All right, so it's no secret. I see a lot of these videos, PSA reveals. It's been popular for a long time, but the whole cracking a slab to resubmit to another company, mainly PSA, but sometimes they'll crack it, they'll send it to SGC, or they'll send it to BGS. An example that I had here is a card I got a good deal on, and it's a 2015 Fleer Retro Spider-Man auto card. It's the 1990 Impel Throwback. These are not mega rare in the 2015 set, but Spider-Man is the most popular character, and I'm not married to the card, so I bought it. I got a good price on it, and I was like, you know what? If I get a PSA 10 on it, I'll sell it, because someone will pay that PSA 10 premium, especially because this card, it's not mega rare, but it's also not very easy to find either. They're one out of about, I think, 100 packs, these autos, but then actually getting the Spider-Man from the checklist. It's, I think, 13 or 14 characters on the checklist. Not exactly an easy card to pull, and these boxes are pretty expensive, etc. So I sent it into PSA, and it got a 6. And for the life of me, I cannot find out what is wrong with this card. And I assume there's some surface thing that I'm just missing. I'm not saying that the corners are perfect or anything, but this is an 8-year-old card. This is 2015. I mean, the centering, maybe not perfect, but I've seen PSA 10s that look similar from a centering standpoint. And so again, maybe there's a surface thing that I just can't see. Maybe they've got it underneath the microscope. I have no idea, but I got a PSA 6. There was an example that Lamine James posted a few days ago on IG, and it was a Justin Herbert autograph card that, and I don't know the sequence of which companies it went to first, but it's got a BGS 9 grade. The same card then has an SGC 8 grade, and then the same card has a PSA 5 grade. And again, it's just like, what the hell is going on? I mean, how is that possible that could be off 3 or 4 grades? I can understand if there's variance between companies where it's 1 grade. Like the SGC BGS variance actually makes sense to me. An 8 or a 9. A PSA 5, what on earth is wrong with it to where it would get a PSA 5, especially when you have quite a few cards that are in a PSA 10 holder where you can see like, is the centering right on that, or is that really a 10? I think the biggest challenge that grading companies have is the quality versus quantity issue, meaning that, of course, as a business, you want to grade as many cards as you possibly can, but you also want to maintain the quality piece. And PSA's never graded more cards ever in their history. They're over 1 million cards a month, and it's been consistent really for 12 plus months. So this is a very consistent thing. Of course, they've hired on new people to serve and meet this demand. And a lot of people might say like, it's probably just new people. But I would say too, even the people that have been there for a while, if you're going from your usual, you're kind of grading what, a couple 100,000 cards or 100,000 cards, and then over the last couple of years, it's bumped up to 1 million cards. You're fighting through backlog. I'm sure those are some long days, you know, for these graders. So it's interesting though, because, and there's no debate when you look at an old PSA slab versus a new PSA slab, a lot of folks will say like, would that grade, that same grade in today's slab? I don't worry about it with SGC. This is an example of an old SGC slab. Actually, it might be the opposite in a sense where the older SGC stuff is even graded tougher. So But that's an interesting thing, I think, especially because PSA does have the most cards graded. They've got some huge cards graded that are sitting in old holders. You know, if you crack those out, you graded them today, would it grade the same? Would it grade a 5 now? You know, these 8s, these vintage 8s, would they be 5s in today's grading world? I've heard them say like, hey, look, our standards have not changed. I understand that you're saying that, but the actual results and what we're seeing, it's clear that it's not the same as it once was. And again, I want to differentiate a little bit in the conversation. Not necessarily really talking to PSA set collectors and people that are on the set registry. It's more a video for modern day flippers. Because really a lot of these premiums are being paid on ultra modern cards in PSA 10 grades. And that's where when we look at SGC 10 versus PSA 10, I looked at recently, and again, this is just a couple of data points. This could vary greatly depending on the player, the card, etc. But Ronald Acuna Jr., I just pulled this up. It's the at-bat blue rookie card in a 10, and it's a blue jersey. This is a $50 to $60 card from recent sales, whether you're getting a PSA 10, an SGC 10, or BGS 9.5. If you look at recent sales on it, it's in that $50 to $60 range, no matter which company. Another example, though, 1996 Topps Kobe Bryant rookie card. This is the paper rookie card. PSA 10 recent sale went for $970. Recent SGC 10 went for about $505 to $550. That's a huge difference in price for a paper Kobe Bryant rookie card. And I think that that's really where it presents opportunities in the secondary market. And I know a lot of people will say like, yeah, the opportunity is you can crack the SGC 10 and then send it into PSA and hope to get a PSA 10. That's not what I'm talking about. I just think that over time, people will finally realize an SGC 10, PSA 10, these are about the same grade. Just because it's got a different label on it, we're talking about Gucci and Louis Vuitton. We're just talking about brand names. As we actually look at the card, that's really what it's about. And I do think, though, too, a lot of people are collecting more rare, scarce type stuff to where you don't necessarily really care about which holder it's in. It's more just about finding that actual card. I've been buying Derek Carr gold prisms here recently, and it's kind of in that same vein where I just happen to have found them in PSA grades, but you know, if they pop up in a CSG, if it pops up in, you know, an SGC case, obviously BGS, you know, I am going to get the card because I just want to get a copy of those gold prisms. I have a little bit of a run going for those Derek Carr gold prisms. This will be key to watch as we move forward. If we look at last month's gem rate data, it showed, and I actually talked about this going back 6, 7, 8 months, man, PSA's TCG business is really taking over. I predicted that it would become 50% of their business. And according to July's data, it has become more than 50% of PSA's business. And so that's something I think to watch. If you look at kind of the difference in sports cards grading between SGC and PSA, that gap has closed. If we look at July's data, it was 88 or 90,000 cards for SGC and about 498, 500,000 cards for PSA. So PSA still grading the bulk of sports cards, but that gap really has closed quite a bit. Now, it depends too. Will PSA ramp up their sports card grading? Will the TCG stuff subside? Will there be more sports card grading? We will have to find that out. I think a lot of this too is pricing is very similar across all these companies to now where it's more about just personal preference. If someone has a personal preference for a particular company, maybe another company for a different card, they're able to do it, and there's not much of a difference in price points here. So the grading debate is always fun. But yeah, vintage cards, if you look at SGC versus PSA, there is not a whole lot of difference in many cases. And I think too, we were talking about kind of that 52 Topps mantle, SGC 9.5 compared to the PSA 10, you know, whether it be Marshall Fogel's, if it comes out into the open and goes to auction. A lot of people think that would be a $30 to $40 million card because the SGC 9.5 was a $12 million card. What I think would be more intriguing is if we actually had an SGC 10 mantle versus a PSA 10 and see the results on that. That would be incredible. I don't believe there actually is a 52 Topps SGC 10 mantle as of yet. But if that ever does happen and they ever end up going head to head, that would be fun to watch. All right, guys, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.